Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something truly fascinating, the deep 1400-year roots of Islam in China. We're going to explore the incredible cultural synthesis that blossomed over centuries of harmony. And, well, we also need to unpack the really complex modern-day crises facing Chinese Muslim communities right now. It is a profound story about faith, patience, cultural blending, and some very real modern challenges. Let's get right into it. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at 1. Arrival on the Silk Road. 2. Centuries of integration and growth. 3. Unique Chinese Islamic culture. 4. Hui and Uyghur communities. 5. The Sinicization of Islam. And 6. Oppression in Xinjiang today. Basically, we're tracing this journey from ancient trade routes all the way to present-day geopolitical realities. Starting with Section 1. Arrival on the Silk Road during the Tang and Song dynasties. Let's rewind the clock all the way back to the 7th century.
This timeline really paints a picture of how steady and peaceful the integration of Islam into China actually was. It all kicked off with maritime and overland Silk Road merchants. By 960 CE, during the Song dynasty, Muslim traders were practically dominating the import and export scene. Then, jumping to 1271 during the Mongol-led Yuan dynasty, we see a massive eastward migration of Central Asian Muslims. And all of this built the foundation for what many consider the golden age of Islam in China, which started in 1368 during the Ming dynasty. You know, a lot of people might think Islam is a relatively new or completely foreign concept in China, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Take a look at the history of the Huaisheng Mosque in Guangzhou. Built over 1,000 years ago, it's reputed to be the oldest surviving mosque in China. Historical accounts tell us it was actually established in the 7th century by Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, a highly respected companion of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So the faith took root incredibly early on. Moving right along to Section 2, Centuries of Integration and Growth through the Yuan and Ming dynasties. During this time, Muslims became completely woven into the very fabric of Chinese society. The Mongol emperors actually brought in hundreds of thousands of Muslim craftsmen, astronomers, and administrators to help run the empire. Over generations, these communities smoothly assimilated. They even adopted Han Chinese surnames. For example, the name Muhammad became Mo, Mustafa became Mai, and Masood became Mu. It's fascinating, and this era gave us some incredible historical figures, like Admiral Zheng He, a devout Muslim who led China's most legendary maritime expeditions. Which brings us to Section 3, Unique Chinese Islamic Culture, a Harmonious Synthesis. What's absolutely beautiful here is how Chinese Muslims preserved their deep devotion to Islamic values while perfectly adapting to their surroundings. They built indigenous Chinese Muslim learning institutions and achieved massive scholarly milestones, like translating the Holy Quran into Mandarin. This made the teachings accessible to the broader population while totally respecting the local linguistic landscape. And this synthesis spilled right over into art and architecture too. In eastern China, historical mosques were often built to resemble traditional symmetrical Chinese pagodas on the outside, while maintaining the sacred, traditional prayer spaces on the inside. Chinese Muslims even developed their own breathtaking style of Arabic calligraphy called Sini. It's this gorgeous blend of the flowing lines of Arabic with the distinct brushstrokes of Chinese characters. Here is a truly remarkable tradition that emerged from this culture: the Nusi, or women-only mosques. Dating back to the Qing dynasty, spaces like the Balin Khan in Suzhou are led by female religious scholars known as ahangs. These women, dressed modestly in full traditional Islamic attire and hijab, beautifully guide their communities in prayer and education. It is a perfect example of combining Chinese social dynamics with steadfast, unwavering Islamic devotion. All right, let's shift to modern times with Section 4, Hui and Uyghur communities, demographics and differences. So who actually makes up the Muslim population in China today? Well, according to data from Pew Research, there are roughly 18 million Muslim adults in China. This is overwhelmingly made up of two major ethnic groups, the Hui at about 8.3 million and the Uyghurs at roughly 7.7 million. The remaining 2 million include Kazakhs, Uzbeks, and other minority groups. Now, here is where things get vastly different. The Hui are historically assimilated. They are dispersed all over the country, they speak Chinese dialects, and they generally experience a degree of relative religious freedom. The Uyghurs, on the flip side, are a Turkic ethnic group heavily concentrated in the northwestern Xinjiang region. They have a completely distinct language and culture, and they face incredibly severe religious restrictions from the state. This leads us directly into Section 5, the Sunnicization of Islam, which is a major state-led policy affecting Muslims across the country.
Around 2015, the Chinese government introduced an aggressive official directive. The mandate was to, quote, adhere to the direction of Sunnicization, actively guide religion to adapt to socialist society. This wasn't just a suggestion. It was and is an active political strategy aimed at fundamentally reshaping how religion is expressed and practiced in public.
So, what does this actually look like on the ground? Well, authorities are systematically removing traditional Islamic architectural features like domes and minarets from mosques, replacing them with Chinese-style roofs. They are banning Arabic script even on halal shopfronts, reshaping religious doctrines to align with socialist values, and mandating strict patriotic education for all imams. It's a sweeping effort to exert ideological control over the faith.
And that brings us to our final and most sobering topic, Section 6, Oppression in Xinjiang Today, a Human Rights Crisis. 8,500. That is the estimated number of mosques completely destroyed or severely damaged in Xinjiang since 2017 alone. Just to put that into perspective, that is over 1/3 of the entire region's historical and spiritual places of worship. It's a staggering cultural loss. Under the banner of what the state calls de-extremization, ordinary, everyday religious observance is literally criminalized. Basic fundamental Islamic practices like praying daily, fasting during Ramadan, or women wearing a hijab are treated as security threats. Human rights groups have documented that hundreds of thousands of Uyghurs have been subjected to mass internment, extreme high-tech surveillance, forced labor, and deeply concerning demographic controls like the forced separation of families. The global community has certainly not stayed quiet about this. Amnesty International has stated that this draconian repression amounts to crimes against humanity. Human Rights Watch and the United Nations have documented severe, systemic violations, and several governments around the world have outright labeled the treatment of Uyghurs in Xinjiang as a genocide, pointing to an intentional effort to erase a distinct religious and cultural identity. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Islam has survived, adapted, and contributed beautifully to China's cultural fabric for 14 centuries. It's an absolutely incredible legacy. But what happens now? Will global awareness and international pressure actually help protect the future of Islam in China? Or will this current Sinicization campaign permanently alter a 1,400-year history? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep seeking knowledge, and I'll see you next time.